Right, Liverpool 2, Chelsea 1. I wouldn't quite say a humbling defeat, but a defeat nevertheless. Maybe one that gives us a little bit more of a clearer indication as of where this Chelsea side are at right now, as of today, Sunday, the 20th of October. Because yes, we were without key players today. Key players that have been both consistent and contributing factors in why we have had such a good start to the season, in my opinion. But I do also believe that fair's fair, man. And as much as I can say that, you know, there were moments today that maybe didn't go our way and whatnot, ultimately Liverpool were the better side today, and they were the side that deserved to win. But as negative as I feel about that result, I do believe there are one or two slight positives that we can take away, and that definitely we can take away and help us to improve and make less of those mistakes going forward. So let's quickly recap today's game and let's speak about Liverpool 2, Chelsea 1. But people, before we get into all that, welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. If you are new around here, if you like the content and you want to see more from myself, please hit the subscribe button right now. I know you don't feel like it because we've just lost the game, but please smash the like button. It really, really helps the channel out more than you could imagine, and it's just one click, isn't it? So please do that. Let's get into the video. Now listen, sometimes in life you have to speculate to accumulate, and I believe that anyone who around 3:30 today, an hour before kickoff, went online and looked at the starting lineup would have very much understood that Chelsea were taking a gamble today. Enzo Maresca was ready to roll the dice, and sometimes you roll that dice and you might roll an 8, and sometimes you roll that dice and you might roll a 1. And if you don't know what I'm talking about here is the starting 11 that we went with. Robert Sanchez in goal. That's absolutely no surprise to me. It's no surprise to you. However, what was a huge surprise to me was the involvement of Reece James. I literally spoke in one of my last videos about the fact that I really do want to see Reece James integrated back into the starting 11 a lot slower than obviously Enzo Maresca had plans for today. And I understand that our hands were somewhat tied. We were fairly hindered by injuries, and in an away trip to Anfield, especially when you take into context how it went last season when we went away to Anfield and we were absolutely battered 4-1, maybe you again have to roll the dice, have to take the risk, and understand that injury prone or not, you need your senior figures on the pitch. You need your vocal points, you need your leaders, and therefore Reece James has brought in to that starting lineup. It was also no surprise to me to see Tosin Adarabioyo in there, Levi Colwill alongside him, and over in the left back position was Malo Gusto. Now listen, hindsight's a wonderful thing, I should say, and if I was that much of an expert, maybe it would be me in the dugout instead of Enzo Maresca, but I personally would have opted for Renato Vega in that left back slot instead of having Malo Gusto there, because obviously it was the left back for the most part that was inverting, albeit we weren't inverting all that much in comparison to games gone by this season, because obviously we didn't have as much of the ball, we didn't have as much of the control of the game as we're used to having. But what I do believe that if we had Renato Vega in there and he was inverting into that midfield role, we would have had a bit more of a presence in that midfield where we did somewhat lack control of the game. Now, very, very interesting. Enzo Fernandez dropped from the starting lineup today, and I do use the word dropped rather than rested, because what you've got to take into context here is it wasn't just Enzo Fernandez that would have flown back from South America after that international break in the week. Caicedo did the same, and it was Enzo Fernandez that was rested. Romeo Lavia came in, and you know what? I thought that for our first game back, for both Reece and for Romeo Lavia, it was an okay performance. I'm not going to go over the top. I'm not going to say it's amazing. It was probably pretty average. But at the same time, my God, Anfield away against the high-flying Liverpool top of the league is certainly a baptism of fire when you are coming back in to the starting lineup. And then the front line doesn't surprise you at all. You know, Cole Palmer in there, Noni Madueke on the right-hand side, Jadon Sancho on the left-hand side. We'll speak about his involvement and whether or not we should have gone possibly with Pedro Neto. Maybe even some of of you may think Josh Aveste, Mikhailo Mudryk should have been in there instead. And, obviously, Nicholas Jackson through the middle. Now, the game didn't start off badly for Chelsea. I wouldn't say we came out the traps fast, but I would also say I didn't feel like we were lacking any sort of control in the game. We weren't being run ragged by any stretch of the imagination. But 6 minutes into the game, there was a serious call from the Anfield crowd for a red card when Tosin Adarabioyo appeared to bring down Diogo Jota, who was actually the last man. Now, had he have been a little bit closer to goal, then maybe we would have seen a different decision. Maybe VAR might have swung in a different way. But the fact that he was just about in his own half, I believe, if he wasn't, he was 1 or 2 yards into the opposition half, probably went in our favour. And do you know what? I was really, really worried when the foul was committed, because I'll hold my hands up now. It was a foul from Tosin Adarabioyo, and when we saw the foul from Saliba yesterday, we know that he was giving his marching orders, right? So I was very, very worried, and I was almost thinking, do you know what? We're 5 odd minutes into the game, and it could be down to 10 men already, and it could be dead and buried from that point. But I was very impressed by the fact that the referee gave the yellow card, and I thought that was very, very fair. And I actually feel like it wasn't the challenge at all that did the damage. It was actually the way that Jota went over. I think Jota had to be subbed off after that anyway, so it was clearly a bad fall from him, but at the same time, I was very happy that the right decision was made there. Now, 18 minutes in is the first time in this match that the curse of Robert Sanchez strikes again. The ball comes back to him under a little bit of pressure from Reece James, but when I say pressure, I don't mean any sort of pressure that should contribute to you making a serious mistake in that moment. I'm not saying he's got miles of space, but he's definitely got enough space to clear the ball. And as we've seen all too often, he's just too nonchalant. He tries to play the simple ball back to Reece James, which isn't a simple ball in the slightest. Cody Gakpo is closing him down. Robert Sanchez passes the ball straight to Cody Gakpo. And this is what I mean when I speak about, and I know I've bigged Robert Sanchez up a fair bit this season, but when I speak about Robert Sanchez's numbers, I was on Squawka and I compared Robert Sanchez's mistakes that led to goals last season in compared to Petrovic's. And there was 1 for Robert Sanchez and there was 2 for Petrovic. And if you were to go on those statistics, then maybe you would think, well, no, hold on. Petrovic is more prone to doing that sort of thing. But the statistics can be misleading, because much like this situation, although 9 out of 10 times that would have led to a goal, Robert Sanchez got somewhat lucky and he regained possession. But it was a huge gamble, and it was a gamble that, let's be honest, was completely avoidable. 26 minutes in, Chelsea concede a penalty after Levi Colwill fouls Curtis Jones. Curtis Jones, he had a great game, by the way, didn't he? Do you know what? Maybe you could argue it was a little bit soft, maybe. I'm not even necessarily saying you would argue it was soft, but I can tell you one thing. If it was a Chelsea man that had the same foul done to him in the Liverpool box, then I would definitely be asking for a penalty in that situation. So if the shoe was on the other foot, then I would have wanted a penalty. I've got no real complaints there. For the former Chelsea man, Mo Salah, he doesn't mess about at all. He steps up, he absolutely puts his foot through that one, and he beats Robert Sanchez to make it 1-0 from the spot. And then 31 minutes into the game, Liverpool have the ball in the back of the net once again through Cody Gakpo, but this time it's ruled out offside. Nevertheless, the run of play is now shifting firmly in Liverpool's favour at this point, and as opposed to the opening sort of 10 minutes when I felt that not Chelsea were in control, but we were putting on a little bit more sustained pressure to Liverpool. It had very much swung by that point. And then moments before half-time, more sloppy defending from Chelsea Football Club in this moment, as Tosin Adarabioyo lets Curtis Jones get goal side of him. Now, he passes it through, Darwin Núñez, I should say, passes the ball through. Robert Sanchez comes out for it, right? Curtis Jones goes over, and again, much like the earlier incident with Jota, it's more the fall that makes it look bad. And I was really surprised that not only the referee pointed to the penalty spot, but the commentary team, including Gary Neville, just spoke about it like it was a stonewall penalty. And in that circumstance, I really don't know what they expect you to do, because Robert Sanchez comes out for the ball. Now, if he dives down to the ball, Curtis Jones can very easily take a touch, take it round him, and then go down anyway, yeah? He needs to stand tall enough, because how many times do we see the goalkeeper go down a little bit too early and the ball just gets dinked over the top? So realistically, you have to answer me the question that if you do honestly feel that that is a penalty, tell me, is Robert Sanchez in an unnatural position in that moment? Because obviously he clashes into Curtis Jones goes over, but at the same time as clashing into him, he wins the ball, and he wins enough of the ball to dictate the ball going off of the course of where Curtis Jones originally meant for it to go to. And then answer me the question, if you still think that, okay, no, do you know what, he was in a unnatural position, tell me, what would you do in that moment? The ball comes through, you've got to do something. Stand in the middle of the goal and you're going to concede either way. So I did not think that Robert Sanchez was at fault there. I also didn't think he covered himself in glory in that moment, you know, but at the same time I would say it was Tosin Adarabioyo's fault for letting his man get goal side of him and letting Darwin Núñez thread that pass through. Either way, very luckily on this occasion, VAR stepped in, they made the right call, and you know what, we'll go on to speak about VAR, but I think that VAR were pretty decent today. I think they really were pretty decent. And every now and again, there'll be a game when they do get it right. And you notice I say every now and again there, because there's so many games where they get it wrong. But I think it's only fair that if you can criticise the VAR format, you've got to hold your hands up when they've had a good game, and I did think they had a good game today. Right, people, I just want to quickly take this opportunity to tell you about new partners of the channel, Squawka. When you're in the YouTube industry like I am, there is a certain type of service that you could very much do with having on your side, and that is the service that stops you making blunders. And when I'm preparing for some of my videos, I use the website Squawka to use the player comparison matrix, and that helps me get a better understanding of comparing the players that I'm talking about. For example, a lot of you guys know that for every Chelsea game, I put out my preferred starting lineup, and I do look into the underlying numbers of the players I'm picking and the players that I'm comparing, and that's where Squawka comes in. They offer the best player comparison matrix on the internet. The website is so efficient and so easy that even I can use it. For example, when I'm picking from Chelsea's 30 to 40 odd wingers that we've got at the club, I can very easily jump onto Squawka and see how their stats compare. But you don't need to be a YouTuber to need to use Squawka. You could use it for your bets when you're betting on first goal scorer and things like that. It could give you a better indication. Or you could just use it to look like a genius down the pub, and we all like to do that, don't we? So thank you very much to Squawka for not only helping me prepare for my videos, but also partnering up with the channel. So help support me by supporting the guys that support the channel in Squawka. They are linked in the description for this video. Let's get back into it. Now, seconds from the end of the half, Chelsea break on Liverpool, and this time it's down the right-hand side. And it was really important for me that we started to utilise that right-hand side, because Madueke up against Robertson was a much, much more lucrative option for us in this game than Jadon Sancho up against Trent Alexander-Arnold. Madueke against Robertson, was a lot more successful, and finally we started to utilise it a little bit. Madueke carries the ball, cuts inside, he puts it to Cole Palmer, and Cole Palmer, who, let's be honest, had a quiet day at the office today, hits one over the bar. Now, had that have gone in, who knows? Who knows? Because I did think that Chelsea were better in the second half, and if we had gone in from that first half drawing, then you know, anything could have happened there. Anything could have happened. But I spoke about the fact that Jadon Sancho, listen, I think Jadon Sancho's been brilliant so far during his time at Chelsea Football Club, but he did struggle today. And am I underplaying the contribution, I should say, of Trent Alexander-Arnold. Maybe I am, because I thought Trent Alexander-Arnold had a really, really good game, and usually you credit Trent Alexander-Arnold for what he does creatively, and what he can bring to the game from that aspect, but actually defensively, I thought he was really, really good. And obviously, Enzo Maresca thought he was really, really good as well, because he pulls Jadon Sancho off at half-time, not in that way, and he subs on Pedro Neto. And I thought Pedro Neto was a bit of a difference maker for us, to be honest, albeit not enough of a difference maker to be able to swing the match, but I was hardly surprised, because Trent Alexander-Arnold was winning that battle down the left-hand side, and Chelsea are immediately looking better in that second half. Pedro Neto giving us way more width, and what that then did was stretch the play. It made it less compact in the middle of the park, and when it got less compact in the middle of the park, Chelsea started to create a few chances, and Caicedo, a man who I have constantly said goes under the radar for his ability to thread that ball through, he sees the run of Nicholas Jackson. Nicholas Jackson goes through on goal and he finishes it. Cool, calm and collective, puts it past Keller and makes it 1-1 until the offside flag goes up. But then when I look at it back, I'm absolutely certain the goal's onside. Luckily, VAR, once again, I'm going to sing their praises. They got this one right. Jackson converts and it's 1-1. And I'm sat there, right? I'm sat there with my mate Frank. Chelsea have just gone 1-1. You've got babies and shit crawling around the front room. I'm going fucking mental. I've set them all off. They're crying. And I turned to my mate Frank and I said, you know what? This next 5 minutes are so important. I said they're so important, because I said last season this was the 5-minute period where Chelsea come unstuck. You're almost riding that high, that euphoria of getting the goal back, feeling like you've got the momentum shifting back and the match is back within your grasps. And no sooner had I said it, Liverpool make it 2-1. It's Mo Salah coming back once again to haunt his former club, Chelsea. He whips in an in-swinging ball, and it's Curtis Jones who meets it once again. It's the battle again between Curtis Jones and Robert Sanchez. And again, I've sung the praises, I should say, of Robert Sanchez many a times this season, but I feel like he needs to do better for that one, because Curtis Jones has a first touch. Now, I'm not going to say it's a bad first touch. It doesn't necessarily get away from him, but at the same time as that, it gets away from him enough that Robert Sanchez should be able to rush out and get that. Maybe he's still got bad memories of the moment in the first half where VAR had to step in and stop the penalty being given, and maybe that is somewhere in the psychology, somewhere in the back of his head. He doesn't rush to Curtis Jones quick enough, and Curtis Jones puts the ball into the back of the net. He makes it 2-1. For me, Sanchez, he's got to do better in that moment. Now, Veiga, Enzo Fernandez, Badiashile subbed straight on after that. And after that, to be fair, the momentum again shifted to Chelsea, but I wouldn't say it shifted to us heavily enough that we were really creating all that much and doing all that much. You know, we had a couple of half chances, but I do feel like there was always the feeling there that Liverpool knew that they were going to be able to sit back. They were defending well anyway, and they had that pace and potency to be able to maybe even nick one more on the counter-attack. And we weren't able to get anything out of it. It finished 2-1. That was how it was in the end, you know. And Liverpool didn't get another one after that. But at the same time, so much substandard defending, I should say, from Chelsea Football Club today that I feel like Liverpool would have been very, very confident just to sit back and try and nick one in that situation. Anyway, so 2-1 to Liverpool. Disappointing afternoon. Really disappointing afternoon. It's mad how quickly things can change in a couple of hours in football, isn't it? Because there was a point today, right, when I was sat there and I'm watching Man City drawing with Wolves. I know that Arsenal have dropped points also. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, we're playing Liverpool today. Now, a win is not going to actually take us above any of Man City or Arsenal or Liverpool, but my God, that would go not only some way to cementing us as firm favourites for a Champions League spot contender, it might well put us in a title race, you know, or at least, you know, give us some hope until Christmas, because we could really close the gap on the teams above us here. Man City go and get one in the 189th minute, whatever it was. and Liverpool beat us. So, again, I don't want to say a humbling defeat. I think the 4-1 at Anfield last season was a humbling defeat. And do you know what? This might be a bit of a hot take, but even today, in that 2-1 defeat, I don't actually feel like we played better today against Liverpool, the league leaders, than we did on the opening day against Man City. I still feel like we have more chances against Man City. And there's a reason why Liverpool have conceded the least goals out of any team in this Premier League season. That is because their defence is sturdy. It's organised. It's good, you know. There were shades of the Chelsea from early last season, you know, in today's game, where you just weren't really seeing patterns of play. You weren't really seeing a philosophy when it came to how are we going to penetrate this Liverpool defence. But as I say that, I do feel like it's necessary that I also say that the Liverpool defence wasn't really there to be penetrated. They were very, very good. They were quicker to loose balls. They doubled up on all of our creative players, you know. Sancho, I don't want to say he was pocketed, but he didn't have a great time up against Trent Alexander-Arnold. Anytime I saw Madueke on the ball, he had two men on him. Cole Palmer probably had his quietest game all season. I say probably, definitely had his quietest game all season. And they really did do a good job, I should say, of nullifying us. Really, really did a good job of nullifying us. And there were so many misplaced passes today from Chelsea as well. And I feel like, you know, listen, even in games like the game against Crystal Palace where we drew, or the game against Nottingham Forest, I don't feel like you can get away with that all too much. But I tell you what, away at Anfield, such a hard ground to go to, I think it's really, really hard to get away with that sort of thing. And I tell you what else is hard. Reece James and Romeo Lavia coming straight back into that game. I mentioned the fact that our hand was forced, but should Reece have been straight back in there? I don't know. I mean, he came off and no signs of injury or fatigue. And speaking of injury, by the way, I feel like Caicedo might be carrying a knock and playing through it at the moment. Have you lot got that feeling, or am I just going a bit loopy here? Because I don't know, I can just feel it a little bit. That being said, I thought Caicedo was good. And again, I've got to give credit to Liverpool, you know. Arne Slot, I thought that there was the potential for Liverpool to have a very good season this year, but I also thought I'm sitting on the fence here, but I also thought there was the potential for them to really fall off and to finish fifth or something like that, which would obviously be a far cry from what they did last season. But Arne Slot has slotted straight in. They actually play a different style of football, Liverpool, but at the moment, I'm not going to speak too soon, it's proven to be just as effective, really, as Jurgen Klopp. So I've got to give them immense credit. And Curtis Jones was really, really good today. I've said it before, I'll say it again. He was a great player, probably best player on the pitch today. But I did say that I would mention some positives. And you might be sitting here now thinking, Joey, how are you going to find positives out of that? And I'll give you a few. Last season we went there, we got battered 4-1, and we never looked like we were in the game. And to the end of this match, we looked like we were in the game. And listen, if my auntie had a set of bollocks, she'd be my uncle. But what I will say is, if one or two moments, maybe the moment with Nkunku at the back post late on, had have gone our way, we could have come away with a 2-2 draw. And would I have said it was a bit of a lucky 2-2 draw? Yeah, I would have. But in life, you make your own luck. So we weren't that far off. And I would say that we've closed the margin ever so slightly. I feel like we're now looking more competitive against these teams. And what that tells me is, are we in a title race? Absolutely, joking. No, we're not in a title race, but we are definitely firm favourites, I would say, for that top 4 position. So I think that is a positive you can take away. Another positive, always happy to hold my hands up when I'm either wrong on something or predict something wrong. When I saw Romeo Lavia in the lineup, I was conflicting because I kind of felt like, okay, rushing him back in a little bit here, it's a big match for him to come back into. But at the same time, I kind of thought, well, I fancy him to do a better job than Enzo Fernandez. And Romeo Lavia didn't have a bad match, by the way. But I'll give credit to Enzo Fernandez. When he came on, I thought he was, again, not enough of a difference maker to improve the scoreline, but I do think that he played quite a good game today. Caicedo was pretty good. I would say that Enzo, Caicedo, definitely Pedro Neto are all players that can walk away with their head held higher today. Nicholas Jackson as well. Quiet match from him, but we have in the past been a little bit critical of his clinicality. Is that a word? I think it is. I'm going to use it. We've been critical of it, and he was clinical in the opportunity that he got today. So, listen, I'm not making excuses here, right? Because it was the international break for everyone. But the international break killed us, really, didn't it? Because we just didn't look free-flowing today. We just didn't look like the Chelsea side that we've looked like in recent weeks. And I even include the draws against Palace and against Nottingham Forest in there, because although the results didn't go our way, I was happy with the performances. And today's performance was not an awful one, but it was a meh, wasn't it? It was a bit of a meh, today's performance. So, listen, you'd have to say that we do have games like this every now and again, and we do learn from games like this. So we've definitely seen enough today to know what areas need to be targeted through the week, where we need to improve on, and defending's the main area. It really is. I think that Enzo Fernandez needs to... Well, it'd be great if Enzo Fernandez did it, but I'm talking about the wrong Enzo. I mean Enzo Maresca. Enzo Maresca needs to address the organisation of the defence and the telepathy between those defenders. Like that, big words, eh? The telepathy, the understanding between those defenders, because there was too many times when they were caught reading off different hymn sheets, and I want to read off the same hymn sheet, okay? So it needs a bit of working on, but no cause for crisis just yet. I'm looking forward to the Panathinaikos game. I think that's one that we're going to go out and put in a much improved performance in. And I'm interested to know your thoughts on today's game. I think that definitely you guys always give a lot of really intriguing analysis. It's me behind the camera, but I'm always very, very interested to hear your guys' comments. So definitely let me know them. I'm in the studio with the big dog, Josh Aveste, tomorrow. I think we'll speak about the game briefly, but I think we'll speak about some of the more pressing talking points from today's game. So if you've got anything in specific, in particular, you want me and Josh to speak about, then definitely get that in the comment section below. I will see you all in the next one.